Steve Shirk with Stackback Engineering and Surveying.
Good morning. I'm Tom Long, North Cornwall Township Manager.
Here today to extend our gratitude and appreciation for the funding you provided to North Cornwall Township for the Glonninger Woods Park, which is located off of 22nd Street in North Cornwall Township. And the handout has some information, some project highlights, and some future improvements that we plan to do at the park. In 2008, the township was fortunate enough to acquire nearly 20 acres of land from the City of Lebanon Authority for the purposes, I think at the time they were considering building a new township.
We weren't sure at the time.
Building on this land, but over time, as things evolved, the township decided it would be better served as a park facility for the residents of the township. I think the township did some studies and determined that they really needed more recreational facilities.
So you don't mind, I'll give you a little back. I've been involved in 31 years with the township. Formed the first rec association back in the 80s. And the one thing unique about North Cornwall, we're the one Cornwall Lebanon School District township that doesn't have a school in it. So we don't have a playground fields like the other schools do in South Lebanon, North Lebanon. North Cornwall for many years had the fire company field and a little playground in Center Street, and that was it. So in the 90s we spearheaded a movement to work with the City of Lebanon Authority to get 5 acres of land that we lease on a yearly basis and put some, what we called at the time, temporary ball fields up and built them, and they're still, 21 years later, they're still there. So in 2008, when the township did purchase this, we weren't sure at the time what was going to happen with it, but because of the lack of recreational facilities in the township and the changes now just recently with the Neversink field not being used anymore, it was necessary to try to find a place and get some recreational facilities in the township. And this project began a few years ago. So I'll do.
Yeah, so the township was also very lucky and fortunate to receive a $250,000 development grant from Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, which we then supplemented with your generous grant through the Marcellus Shale program of $7,500. So in 2015 and 2016, we developed what's basically phase 1 of our park, and it included a youth baseball field, a soccer field, almost 5,000 linear feet of trails, stormwater management facilities, an 80-space parking lot, and then last year, you gave another $5,000 grant through the Marcellus Shale program, and we were able to finish a second baseball field and put up some backstop fencing. And then I think we also used that funding
yes.
towards a fence, which will help protect the roadway from balls, errant balls on the soccer field. We have more planned at the park, and maybe Tom, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Our yearly calendar, and since the park was a featured highlight this past year getting constructed, we decided to put that on the cover of this year's calendar. Actually, under this month's February, we also have information that's about the park, and our plans is trying to raise as much money as we can privately. And then you'll see some brochures there. We developed the Park Partners Program, we're calling it. This will be the first year that the baseball teams, and we're going to have a grand opening. Tentative date is April 29th, so we will, once we firm up that date, we will give you notification and invite you to attend. But we do have a lot of plans. This year we're trying to get water and sewer into a couple locations, one on 22nd Street here. There's an overlooking hill area here that overlooks the park for the fields, and we have a concession stand being constructed, a 20 by 12 concession stand that's going to be put on the site. We're actually taking some of the facilities from the playground, the interior equipment, and relocating it there. So we have the ability to have concession stands. We also ran a park program in the summer for kids, and we needed to place, facilities. So it won't happen this year, but we're looking in 18 to redo that program again. We also replanted some more trees along here. We're going to get some more trees and some more benching this year. We are planning to put a storage facility building here at this north corner and run utilities in there, so we have storage for the equipment. And basketball down in this corner. We're actually sort of thinning out the woods in that area now. So we have a lot of things based on our funding that we want to proceed with over the next year or two. There was a developer across the street here, I get my bearings here, over here, which was land that's actually owned by the Meadow Lane Farms Development. There was 15 acres set aside for recreational use or open space there.
On the other side of Walnut Street.
On the other side of Walnut, like south of Walnut Street. So we're hoping that by that time, then maybe we can relinquish Dairy Road fields, but working with the City of Lebanon Authority, they're fine with it. We have sort of a long-term agreement with them. If they would need to get on it, we naturally would have to get off, but we could continue to use those fields because we expanded into soccer now. The Snitz Park over on Oak Street now, we're running Rising Star soccer programs on that field now. So things are growing between the soccer and baseball. Everything is really taken off.
Good participation.
Right. And if I could just say one more thing, we're also in the very early stages of exploring some ways to make pedestrian connections along Chestnut Street, 22nd Street over to the mall, with possibly some improvements to the bridge there. I know that's been a concern. So we're hoping to kind of link this all together and really make an impact for the Pleasant Hill area and many of the new homes and older homes in this part of the township.
Yeah, to sort of piggyback on what Steve said, I've lived in Pleasant Hill all my life, basically, and I did see an increase in pedestrian traffic, not only kids but adults, especially since we've seen CVS and the mall have a grocery store. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic along the county land, which is, by the county along Chestnut Street there. So we're envisioning, to get a sidewalk there, some type of connection, and go across 22nd Street, which would connect right into the corner of this park. Yeah. Just for, for the safety and welfare of the public that's doing a lot more pedestrian and bicycling in the area.
I was wondering, do you have electricity? You talked about other utilities.
I have two designs in to Meta now. So this year we're planning to bring electricity into here to feed that concession stand, and over to there to feed the future building, both electric, water, and sewer.
With maybe some sports field lighting in the future.
In the future, possibly, yes.
All right. I heard water, sewer, and I didn't hear electric.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if you were planning on lighting parking lots, etc. So.
No, but one of the first things we want to do, because the wood is thinned out, we want to try to get something in this area. We talked about running and maybe putting a couple poles with electric to sort of flood the woods a little bit to give light there during the overnight hours, even though the park is closed. Again.
So you're open sunrise to sunset?
Yes, that's going to be the normal park hours, yes. Mm-hmm. We do allow in this park, same as our Snitz Park, within our park and rec rules, to allow dogs as far as on a leash walking on the confines of the path. We have dog stations out. So, like a lot of other parks don't allow that, but that's one thing we do allow on the Snitz Park and this Clouding Park.
You guys do good work, I'll tell you, they're beautiful.
Two things. One, I think, does this calendar go to every resident? In
Yes.
Cornwall? That's a fantastic calendar.
It gives every resident that.
I mean, that is, you have very timely
We try to-
topics at each month, spring cleanings or I guess.
Try to coordinate with the
spring yard
seasonal.
waste in
Yes,
April.
and then the scheduling on the calendar itself, yes.
That's
It's
great.
worked out well for us.
Common property violations, and so that's a great calendar.
Yeah, thank you.
I just had a thought when you talked about the county's property on Chestnut Street. And just the other day, John Wengert and crew were in here to talk about or take some feedback on a plan that they've developed for a park across from Lebanon Catholic School District.
The old rail.
Yeah, so that would go essentially from the rail trail almost to 16th Street.
Yes.
As a linear pocket park.
Yes.
So then if you look at the county's property that goes from 22nd Street almost to halfway to 16th Street, I
Right,
guess. a couple of
19th
blocks
Street.
there,
Yeah, within,
19th Street.
around 20th Street, yes.
Which we don't, that is just passively managed land. It's just essentially for the Hazel Dyke.
Right.
Overflows out when it releases out of the channel. That would be a great place to have a sidewalk along Chestnut.
That's exactly
to try
what
to
we
connect
sort of
these-
drew that up, the north side.
Right.
And then while Chestnut Street is pretty wide there in front of the apartments between 16th and 19th, that's an area that at some point could be converted to a sidewalk and continue right down into 16th Street.
Yeah, and as you well know, the only thing we have to keep after there is that we have some trees that are just continuously
yeah.
threatening the power lines and the utility lines
And
in
that
the
probably would have
road.
been one of my requests if this would have gone to try to clean that up in that area,
I get a
because,
call every now and then from them that from North Cornwall telling me that there's a few trees that are looking like they're gonna fall on the
Yeah.
road.
We've been exploring some ideas with John Fitzke and the
Okay.
NPO,
Yeah.
and we're excited. Excited that there's some good potential there, and you know, we hope that, you know, the county would support it. But you know, for everything you've done so far, I know the township really
really
appreciates
appreciate
the
it,
support.
yes.
Can I just add that when you connect parks, you're going to go up on the scale with DCNR for funding, so that's always a good thing too. And you'll be connecting to the rail trail.
Right,
Yes, this we are counting on.
yes.
I shouldn't ask this without knowing the answer, but North Cornwall Commons,
We just had a big meeting on Monday. We are proceeding along. Yes, we are proceeding. We had, actually, Tom Ritchie, who was a consultant for Springwood, and I got together, and it was time to have a meeting. Steve, you were there at the meeting. We brought all parties involved because there was a lot of missing information, but we're getting the agreements worked out now, all the letters of credits, everything that's needed to get them ready to break ground this spring. The intersection improvement should begin this spring there at Cornwall and Rockerty too. We actually met with they have a contractor already awarded, so you're gonna see some action this year for finally.
Be busy.
Yes.